Let me tell you a story. It's December of 2023. I'm 18 years old, sitting at a picnic table at the hostel I'm staying at in New Zealand, and I feel like giving up. I'm exhausted from a long day of traveling. I had to get to this new place. It's hot out, I'm sunburnt, I'm drenched in sweat, and I am extremely frustrated. I've been sitting here on this picnic table, staring into my laptop for 30 minutes, frustrated because I can't come up with anything. I can't figure this out, and I'm starting to feel like there's something that's wrong with me. Not only was the situation extremely frustrating, it was also extremely ironic. You see, I was so frustrated because I was trying to come up with a story to tell for this very video. I had writer's block trying to come up with something for a video about writer's block. How ridiculous is that? At first I thought about using this story about a time in high school where I had to do this presentation completely improvised because I couldn't figure out anything to actually write about, and I still ended up getting a decent grade on it. And I thought about using that, and I started writing the story out, and it didn't feel good. Then I tried using this other story when my best friend and I were in Montreal, and he was trying to come up with a gift to give to his girlfriend, and he was thinking about it all day and he still couldn't come up with something, and he finally asked me for a piece of advice, and I gave him something that was the perfect gift within like 5 seconds. The thing was, I already used that idea for a different video. You see, it was only after sitting there for 30 minutes in the blistering heat trying to think of an idea to tell for the start of this video that I realized I had the perfect thing to tell for this video. And this isn't the perfect story to tell for this video because I magically came up with some way to overcome writer's block, but because of how ironic this situation was. Even when I'm making a video discussing writer's block, it still managed to get a hold on me. You see, the thing is that I'm gonna discuss in this video, and I'm gonna guess no one has ever told you this before, but writer's block doesn't actually exist. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I'm gonna explain. With the right tools, you can actually learn how to overcome writer's block and start to see progress towards your creative journey. My name is Colby Wallace, and I am helping songwriters all over the world access their true creative potential by improving the rest of their lives. As a musician and a creator in general, I know how frustrating writer's block can be. I understand what it feels like to have this burning passion to create something, but whenever you try to actually make that thing, you always feel like it's not good enough. So many times throughout my creative journey, I've been really working on something and ideas are just flowing out and everything seems to be perfectly aligning into place. Then I get to a certain section and it just stops. It's like someone turned off the tap of my creative energy and I have nothing left to give. At that point, usually I'll try a couple different things, and if I can't get anything, I'll just stop and take a break and then come back to the song or whatever I'm working on later. And then as I'm listening back to these other parts, I'll start to get these really negative thoughts about what I've created and start to think like, oh, that's actually not that good. And it doesn't sound as good, at least to me now, as it did when I was creating that thing. And I start to get really critical of these parts and these elements of the thing that I'm trying to create. And the thing is, this is not a unique problem to me. It's what happens to most songwriters, and I'm guessing it's probably why you clicked on this video. I know what it's like to want to overcome these feelings of insecurity in your music and want to overcome these negative blocks that you get through having writer's block. See, writer's block can be such a powerful sensation and such a powerful thing that comes over us that we can have a project and be working on it for weeks and trying to come up with ideas and still not come up with anything. It's like we can't access that next idea in our mind, and it's just waiting. Like we feel like we know what we want, but we just can't get it out of our own head. Now, the thing I've come to realize is I don't believe writer's block actually exists unless you let it. I think it's simply a frame of mind that we get stuck into because we're comparing what we're creating at the time to what someone else has made, and where we have this perfect idea of what we think it needs to be like, and we're trying to create it exactly like that, and we think what we have made isn't good enough. So naturally we just get stuck, but it's because we're overthinking about the thing that we're trying to make. If you actually sit down to write or try to make a new section of a song, I'm 100% sure that if you sat down for long enough, you could come up with a new section. The thing is, you only get a block when you're not satisfied or you think it's not good enough. If you believe writer's block is going to happen to you, then it will. There's no way around it. You see, I play a ton of sports, and people who don't really play a lot of sports believe that it's just all physical, right? You think if you have to go play basketball, it's all about how fast you can run, how high you can jump, and the technical motion of shooting a jump shot or dribbling or doing a layup or whatever skill you're doing. But the thing that a lot of athletes know is the majority of the game is actually mental. Some people say it's like 80% of the game is mental and 20% is physical. I'm not 100% sure where it sits, but the thing is, your mind is so much more powerful than you actually realize. The sport that I found this to be the most true in is weightlifting. Often if I'm in the gym and say I'm doing like bicep curls or something, and if I'm doing a weight that's kind of challenging, but it's in my mind that I can hit 12 reps with this weight, and I might fail, but I sincerely believe that I can actually hit that, odds are I'm gonna hit it. Versus if I go into the gym and do that same exercise and I don't know how many reps I was gonna do, instead of doing 12, like if I had that number in my head, I'd probably only get like 6 or 7 if I didn't have that idea of what I wanted to hit, and I was just trying to lift it as many times as I feel my muscle could, instead of having that idea of what I believe I can hit. And once you have that idea, you actually tend to hit that weight. This is what happened to me in my first powerlifting tournament. Powerlifting is a sport where you have 3 different lifts: squat, deadlift, and bench press, and your total is based on how much you can lift on each of those lifts. And in my first competition, my goal was 1,000 pounds. And I knew I could hit 1,000 pounds because I'd hit personal best in those lifts all to equal those totals. But what happened at the competition was I got the squat I was trying to hit, but the bench press, I ended up failing my final attempt, and I didn't hit the weight that I'd hit in training. So my total was less at that point. And if I wanted to hit 1,000 pounds, I needed to deadlift more. And the thing was, I had never deadlifted the weight that I needed to get that total up. But the thing was, I wanted that total so bad that I was literally convincing myself and pretty much trying to brainwash myself into thinking, I can hit this, I can hit this, I can hit 1,000 pounds. And I walked up on that platform to go lift that weight and pull it up, and with the sole idea that this weight is gonna feel like nothing. And the adrenaline of the moment started to kick in, and I got into that flow state, and the only thought in my mind was, I can pull this weight, I can pull this weight, I can pull this weight, I'm not gonna fail this. And as soon as I started pulling that weight, I didn't even feel it going up because I was so in the moment and so locked in on that idea that I could pull that weight, and it just came up faster than the other 2 attempts I did, and it felt a lot lighter than anything else I'd pulled. And it was simply because I believed that I could actually pull it, and it just came off the ground pretty much like nothing. The thing is, overcoming writer's block is a lot like me trying to hit that 1,000 pound total. The key to overcoming writer's block is to change your belief systems and the way you perceive your creation. Every other video I've seen about on writer's block always gives you tips like, oh, take a 5-minute break or meditate before you write, and that stuff is good, but the root of the problem isn't going to be solved by adding these other things. We are trying to solve problems by creating other problems, because if you think that, oh, if I learn this certain technique, before you change your belief system about actually writing and the writing process itself, you have to adjust problems in that problem, trying to fix this other problem, and there's just more problems instead of addressing the root issue. Overcoming writer's block is actually much easier than you think. You just need the right person to show you how to do it. And this is the exact reason why I've created a free online community that is specifically designed to help songwriters overcome writer's block. I was trying to come up with a name for this community, and I wanted it to be something kind of clever, but all I could come up with was like the School of Rock, and I'm like, no, I'm not calling it that. So I still haven't come up with a name for it, but that'll just come in time. The sole focus of this community is to help you overcome writer's block and to achieve a new sense of freedom in your writing and a new sense of enjoyment in your creative process. Because a lot of times it can seem like a grind or seem unenjoyable to actually go and write and work on your stuff. That's only because you haven't developed the correct mentality yet. Inside of this community, you'll have access to every single resource you will ever need to start overcoming writer's block. The basis of this community is centered around a course that I have spent the last 3 weeks creating and scripting and diving into all the techniques and all the mindsets that I have used to overcome writer's block. It covers everything from getting a down-packed routine before you actually go to start writing and accessing different parts of your creativity and finding inspiration in new places. And it really dives into the mindsets and the way to approach writing from a new perspective, that once I learned, my writing not only became much better, it became far more enjoyable, and it became such more of a fulfilling experience because I wasn't always just worried about trying to overcome writer's block. I could actually enjoy writing again, and that is what the course is designed to teach you. Not only do you have access to the free course, you also have access to our whole community tab where you can meet other songwriters just like you who are working to overcome writer's block. And there's a community post section where you can ask other people for advice, even if it's about your song, or ask clarification on a certain topic that you're trying to use to overcome writer's block, or any other issue related to songwriting that you have. And you have access to loads of other people all going through the same thing that you are. As songwriters, it can kind of feel like it's a lonely journey because you're trying to create something that's so unique to you and express your own ideas and opinions. But what this community has is loads of other people just like you and have the same passion for music that you do, and you no longer have to be that lone wolf trying to make it on your songwriting journey. You have access to loads of other people just like you. You'll also be getting weekly and individual live calls with me. I'll be doing group calls and individual calls to discuss any questions you have about music or songwriting in general, and I'll be giving you stories of mistakes and lessons I've learned in the past, and just really getting to know you on a much deeper level than just versus these videos. And you get all of this completely for free. Not only am I going to give you all the techniques and all the tricks to actually overcome writer's block, we're going to do a bunch of work on your mentality, like I've stated, because that's the most important part. If you don't change what's up here, then anything you put on the page isn't going to really resonate with you. Let me take you back to April of 2023 when I am 17, sitting in my room and about to send out the most important email that I have ever sent out in my life so far. I was reading over the message, making sure that there wasn't any typos or any mistakes, and I decided to take one last listen to the attachments that I was about to send out. I was about to send out a bunch of new songs to my band who I was playing with for the album release show for my latest album that I had booked in a couple months at that point. I had just finished recording all these songs, the mix was done, and I just wanted to take one last listen to them before I sent them out. The whole time I was recording these songs, I was often second guessing myself, thinking like, oh, that part isn't good enough, or that bridge isn't perfect. And as I was listening to these songs again, those thoughts started to creep back in, and I almost decided not to send those out and cancel the release show because I felt like these songs weren't good enough to play live or to release onto Spotify. It was at that moment though when I was constantly overthinking about how these songs weren't good enough and I didn't feel like anyone would want to listen to them. A thought just hit me, and all I was thinking about in that moment was, what the fuck am I waiting for? Life is far too short to do this. I just spent 4 months writing and recording all of these songs, and I'm not going to release them because I'm scared of what people might think. No, life is too short. Why would I wait? I put all this time and effort, and this is where I'm at in my songwriting journey right now. And why would I wait to release these? Yes, they're not perfect, but nothing I make ever will. Yes, I want to do something different and I want to get better, but that's going to come with time, and I need to release these and just go and just put these out now because this is where I'm at right now, and I'm not going to ever make progress if I don't take those steps forward simply because I'm afraid. I then sent them out to the band and we started rehearsing and getting ready for the show, and I had so many compliments from my band members on the way they were written and the style and the new influences that I'd fused together, but I still felt that the people I was going to play them for at this release show weren't going to like them all that much. I remember before I went on stage, well, I actually got stuck in the elevator before going on stage, which is a story for a different video. But before going on stage for that release show, I remember feeling so nervous because this was the first time that I really put myself out there as a songwriter. And not that I hadn't released anything, but really done a show showcasing my writing style and showcasing me as a songwriter. And I just felt so nervous about what everyone was going to think. But just like when I needed to go for that 1,000-pound total and go for that deadlift, I just started to think that this is who you are. Just go be free. Go enjoy yourself. You've already written all the songs. You've rehearsed them. Just go have fun. And that was the best show that I have ever played in my entire life. Now, the release show went great. It was extremely enjoyable. Everyone had a good time that was there. But the thing that really struck me and had never happened to me before was people were actually tearing up from the songs that I'd written and watching me play. And that experience hit me like a bunch of bricks because I'd never had anything like that before. Now there's a couple people I just want to mention just from the experience that playing those songs and seeing the reactions really got to me. And number one might seem kind of obvious, but it was my grandma. Man, if you can play live songs out there on the stage and have your grandma in the stands watching you play and be like, come over to you and give you a big hug after you've played, man, there is not a lot of feelings in the world that are close to a feeling like that. Also, the other person that was cheering up was the chaplain at the school that I went to, and he'd always kind of known me as someone who played music, but he'd only see me play drums or play guitar, never actually do vocals or any of the songs I had written. And when I went over to him after the show, he was like just kind of explaining how he'd never seen me put that side of me out there, and was explaining how like the lyrics and the songs really resonated with him, and he was really proud to see that side of me that he'd never been exposed to before. And it was just a really wholesome moment. And the last person was my best friend, and he doesn't tear up often, and this had been my best friend for the entirety of high school. And just seeing him there, and because he'd been there listening to the shit that I'd been writing since I started writing songs, like at the very beginning when I didn't even play guitar, and just seeing him there and seeing his reaction to see the progression that I made in my songwriting journey was an extremely beautiful moment. And the thing is, now I've literally been traveling around the world busking those same songs, and I get loads of compliments from people how much they like those songs and how much they really resonate with the message. And like just seeing someone smile and like say, hey, I really like that song after you finished, like, and some people think they're like covers, and I tell them it's an original, and they're like, oh my god, that's like so good, what's your Spotify? You know, like having stuff like that from the songs you've written is just such a beautiful way to go through life. And to think I almost didn't send those songs out to my band and never released them simply because I was afraid of what people would think, and I was being too critical of myself. This is how writer's block works, because we are often our own worst critic, and we get too critical about what we think people might think of us when we put our stuff out there, and it just gets us caught in this vicious cycle that keeps us from achieving those moments that are so beautiful. And the reason why we play music, it just holds us back simply because of fear. And the thing is, if you never take the time to learn how to beat writer's block, you're always going to be holding yourself back, and you will never actually reach your full potential. Now, at this point, you have two choices. You can keep going about songwriting and keep going about music the same way that you have for the entirety of your time that you've been playing it. You can try the same writing techniques and the same things and expect to get different results and hope for different results and never actually get anywhere. Albert Einstein stated that the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. The second choice you have, though, is to actually take action and take responsibility for yourself. If you want to take your songwriting to the next level, then you can join me in our academy completely free today. You have nothing to lose. It is completely free. I don't really know what you're waiting for. You can join us inside and start taking the steps on this journey to become the best songwriter that you can possibly be. At this point, I don't have anything left to say, but never stop creating, my friend, and I hope to see you inside of our academy. See you in the next one.